Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into one of the NFL's biggest stars, maybe the most scrutinized right now, Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones.
Yeah, and the timing makes this really sharp.
Mm.
You've got the Chiefs, the reigning AFC champs, but they hit their bye week at 5-4. That's outside the playoff picture currently.
Exactly. And for a team always thinking Super Bowl, suddenly the spotlight isn't just on Mahomes and the offense, it's swung hard onto the defense. And specifically onto Jones, their highest paid guy on that side.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
The talk is all about him needing to step up. So our job today is to unpack that. Is this a real decline we're seeing? Is it effort, age, or maybe is the team around him just not helping enough?
Right. Is the criticism fair or is it overblown? We need to figure out if what people think they're seeing matches up with, the actual data.
It's that classic conflict, isn't it? Star player seems off. How much is him? How much is the situation? We're going to try and separate that media heat from the statistical cold.
Okay, so let's dive right into the heat because the eye test commentary has been harsh. We've got analyst Jeffrey Chadiha saying Jones has been, quote, almost invisible lately. That's a rough thing to say about an all-pro.
It is rough. And you look at the basic numbers, and you can kind of see why someone might say that. Through 9 games, over 400 snaps logged, just 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss.
Yeah, for Chris Jones, that's not his standard. Not even close. Especially for the self-proclaimed CEO of Sack Nation, right?
Exactly. But this feeling of him being invisible, it's not just the sack count, is it? It's tied to specific moments where he needed to make a play and didn't, game-changing moments.
That's what stands out in the reports. Like that Week 5 loss to Jacksonville, failing to chase down Trevor Lawrence on the game-winning score, that's a hustle play you expect your stars to make, period.
And that wasn't isolated. Go back to the season opener, Chargers game.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert scrambles to basically ice the game, and Jones hasn't maintained contain. It's not just a missed tackle. It's about discipline, awareness in the biggest spots.
And there's that interesting side note. The reports confirmed he deactivated his X account right around that Jacksonville game. Now, whether it was down before or not, the timing suggests he was definitely feeling that pressure, feeling the criticism.
Yeah, you don't do that unless you're trying to block out noise.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just outside noise either. Inside the locker room, linebacker Drew Tranquill apparently noted Jones's undisciplined play in that opener. So teammates noticed too.
So these aren't just random bad plays. They're visible lapses affecting outcomes, and people inside and outside the team are seeing a pattern. It points to consistency, maybe, not just a lack of skill.
Exactly. Consistency is the word. Okay, so the eye test is, well, it's messy. Let's bring in the money. Because you can't talk about a player like Jones without talking dollars.
Right, because this level of production, or lack thereof, it looks really different when you see the contract numbers. He's got a cap hit of $23.6 million next year, 2025, and then it balloons, a projected $44.85 million in 2026.
Whoa. Okay, that's not just big money. That's franchise-shaping money. You absolutely cannot pay that kind of number for almost invisible. The Chiefs have a massive decision looming if this doesn't turn around. Is he the player he was or the player he is?
And that salary makes the performance look even more stark. Which brings us to the hard data, the stuff that goes beyond just watching the game. The Pro Football Focus grades, PFF has loved this guy for years. Elite grades, often 90s.
But not this year. This year, the numbers are, honestly, they're alarming. We're talking career worst metrics pretty much across the board.
Okay, break it down for us. What do those grades actually look like?
Right, so remember, PFF grades. 90 plus is elite, 70, 80 very good, around 60 is average starter level.
Yeah.
Jones's overall defense grade this season, 60.3.
60.3, so average. For Chris Jones.
Basically league average. Not all pro level.
Yeah.
Even close, really. And it gets worse when you dig into specifics.
Like the run defense, that's always been maybe the slightly weaker part of his game.
Yeah.
But
Weaker is one thing. His run defense grade is 42.9. That's really bad. Like a huge liability level, not just a relative weakness.
42.9. Okay. And you mentioned something else that was even more shocking.
Yeah, the tackling grade. This one is genuinely stunning. It's 28.8.
28.8. What does that even mean in practical terms? Is he just missing tackles left and right?
Pretty much. A grade that low suggests, like you said, he's whiffing on a huge percentage of his tackle attempts. Maybe 1 out of every 3 chances, roughly. It's disastrous for an interior anchor, and it connects right back to those plays we talked about earlier, like the Herbert scramble. Effort might be there sometimes, but the execution is failing badly.
Wow, 28.8. That's Is that just below average, or is that like bottom of the league bad for a starter?
It's historically bad for a player of his caliber, and even his bread and butter, the pass rush. It's down to pass rush grade is 81.4. Now, that's still good, objectively.
Okay, 81 is still good.
It is good, but it's his lowest since he was a rookie back in 2016. So even his strength isn't quite as strong. The overall picture from PFF is a serious drop in consistent play-to-play dominance.
So PFF paints a pretty grim picture. A guy struggling with fundamentals, consistency, basically not earning that massive contract right now. But hang on, let's push back a bit. Because the story isn't all negative in the advanced stats, right? There's data that actually defends him.
Correct. And this is where it gets really interesting. You see this split in the metrics. NFL Pro data, which measures things a bit differently, focusing more on athletic markers, tells a more positive story, specifically his get-off time.
Ah, the speed off the snap. What's that number?
His average get-off is 0.84 seconds.
0.84. For an interior guy that's flying,
It's elite. It's actually the quickest average get-off time for any interior defensive lineman in the league, with over 100 pass rushes this season. So that initial boost, that explosiveness, it's absolutely still there. He hasn't lost that part of his game.
Okay, so the first step is still elite. He's winning off the line, but then something's broken down because the results aren't following.
Exactly. That's what we're calling the pressure paradox. He's got the league's fastest start for his position, but his overall pressure percentage is just 8.1%.
8.1%. How does that compare to his usual numbers?
It's the only time in his entire career he's been below 10%. His previous low was 11.8% back in 2022. So he's getting off the ball fast, but he's not translating it into pressure nearly as often. He's winning the first step, but losing somewhere after that.
So maybe he beats his initial guy, but then the double team gets there, or his technique falters later in the rush. He can't finish the play.
That seems to be the case. Fewer pressures means fewer stops, fewer drive-killing plays, fewer sacks.
Yeah.
He's just not impacting the quarterback consistently, even with that elite first step.
Right. So we have this weird picture. Elite physical tools still evident, but the production and the consistency, especially according to PFF, have fallen off a cliff. This forces us to look at the why. Two big factors keep coming up: age and his supporting cast.
Let's take age first. He's 31. And for interior defensive linemen, playing at a truly elite Hall of Fame level deep into your 30s it's rare. It's a physically demanding position. Some slight decline in sustaining that peak level isn't shocking.
Makes sense. But the other point, the supporting cast, the reports really emphasize this. He's drawing seemingly countless double teams. Is that fair? Is he just being neutralized because offenses don't fear anyone else?
There's a strong case for that. Look, outside of George Karlaftis on the edge, who's having a solid year, where's the other consistent pass rush threat for the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's not immediately obvious, is it?
Right, so if you're an offense, why wouldn't you dedicate two, maybe even chip with the third guy, towards Jones on almost every passing down? He's still a good player, objectively, but he's paying the price for the lack of threat next to him. It's like having a supercar but only being allowed to drive it in heavy traffic. His potential is capped by the situation.
Okay, I get the double team argument explaining lower sacks or maybe pressure rate, but can we really blame the supporting cast for a 28.8 tackling grade? Or for not containing Herbert? Isn't that on him? Individual discipline?
That's the perfect challenge to that argument. You're right. Double teams don't make you miss tackles. They don't make you lose contain on a scramble. Those PFF grades, especially tackling and run defense, point squarely back at individual execution and, frankly, maybe focus or discipline issues.
So it's likely a mix. The system around him isn't helping, making his job harder, maybe leading to some frustration, but his own consistency, his technique, his tackling, that's also slipping. And age might be amplifying both issues.
I think that's the most balanced way to look at it, yeah. The situation is tough, and his individual play, particularly in run support and tackling, has objectively declined based on that PFF data.
All right, let's try to pull this all together then. The Chiefs clearly have championship aspirations. The offense is still potent, but the message from our sources is clear. They probably won't win a championship if Chris Jones doesn't play significantly better down the stretch.
Yeah, the deep dive really shows this complex situation. You've got a player grappling with maybe inconsistent focus or execution. Those PFF grades, those key gaffes really highlight that, but simultaneously the athletic tools are still there. The super fast get off proves it. His overall impact, though, is just being watered down by age, perhaps, and definitely by the lack of star power around him on that D-line.
So the big question for the rest of the season is pretty simple. Can the CEO of Sack Nation find that consistency again? Can he turn that incredible first step back into game-wrecking plays? And maybe more importantly, can he clean up those discipline and tackling issues that PFF is flagging so harshly?
The pressure is definitely on. Financially, with that contract looming, and competitively for the team's goals. But the data does suggest the raw ability hasn't vanished. It's about applying it, play after play.
Okay, let's leave our listeners with something specific to watch for. We've talked about this split in the stats, the eye test versus some metrics, the PFF plunge versus the get-off speed. If Jones does start playing better, if he turns it around, what's the one thing you'd tell people to look for that proves he's truly back to being dominant, beyond just sacks?
That's a great question. For me, given how far it's fallen and how much it relies on individual effort and discipline, I'd say watch his run defense. Forget the specific PFF number for a second. Just watch him against the run. Is he anchoring? Is he shedding blocks cleanly? Is he making tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage consistently?
So not just the flashy pass rush stuff, but the gritty work in the trenches.
Exactly. Because those double teams we talked about, they matter less against the run. Winning those one-on-one battles against guards, staying disciplined in his gaps, making those tackles cleanly. If you see that improve dramatically, that tells you his focus, his effort, his technique are all back at an elite level. That's the indicator that he's truly dialed in again, regardless of who's lined up next to him. Watch for that consistency against the run. That'll tell the real story.